Let's get started. What's the question?
I have a simple question, which is that, remember how we discussed that we were creating these auto-deploy branches on, right now, 4 different repositories, GitLab CE, GitLab EE, Omnibus GitLab, and Deployer.
Correct.
And the only reason we really wanted to do it on Deployer was so that when you scan the list of pipelines, you can be like, ha, that's an auto-deploy,
That's
because
one,
it's
yeah.
convenient. My problem is that when you trigger the Omnibus pipeline with a tag, I need to trigger from Omnibus the Deployer pipeline. That's the way it works, right? Like after the package is built in Omnibus, I trigger the Deployer pipeline. I need to pass a branch to say like, use the auto-deploy branch. It's a tag pipeline. I don't know how do I know what the latest auto-deploy branch is? Or, because like, of course the pipeline is running on the auto-deploy branch, but it's a tag, it's triggered by a tag, right? And so what I have is the tag name, I have the ref name, but I don't have a branch name. So I
You're
don't.
not passing it to the trigger as a variable?
It's not, well, first of all, it's not a trigger, right? It's a tag
It's a tag.
pipeline, right? So
That's the problem. So it doesn't have any of
it
those.
doesn't have the branch name. If it was a branch, when we had this as a branch build, it was easy, right? Because when we did this as a branch pipeline, I just used the same branch name, because the
Yeah.
branch names
Right,
all
yeah.
move in lockstep. But in this case, it's a tag. So
So you can-
my proposal for this would be to maybe not create the auto deploy branch on deployer, but instead have a different branch that remains the same. And then we just use that for now. And then whenever we need to update that branch, we would just update it. Because we're not cherry picking or doing anything with the deployer anyway.
So in the deployer, the only reason why we wanted to do this is cosmetics, because
Yeah, exactly.
GitLab is not allowing us to filter out pipelines properly.
Yeah.
Alright.
So I was just thinking like have a branch name called maybe auto deploy, or
Is it called maybe auto?
yeah, maybe or
Why don't we tag?
That's what we're talking about.
Why don't we tag in deployer?
okay. So if we tag the deployer, I can pass the tag name. But what would I see, so it would be the same tag as the
As the-
tag on Omnibus?
Correct.
And if I pass the tag, which corresponds to a ref, and I look at the pipeline screen, will I see the tag? I
You
guess
will
I
see
would.
the tag in the pipelines. And then you have one-on-one relationship between a package
Yeah.
that we want to deploy and the deploy pipeline.
I kind of like that, so it would be this tag here.
Whichever tag we have in Omnibus, so I
This is
guess
the-
yes,
this is the tag.
yes, that's the one. That's the one.
Actually, good idea.
And then you have like
Good
one-on-one
idea.
relation. The problems are with this approach. The problems are you have a breakage in deployer and you have a tag. You have to go to the deployer, remove the tag, and then trigger the
that-
build in Omnibus again to retag it.
That's actually true, I don't know.
So that's one problem. But it's
Add the deployer ref to the tag. No.
please no.
No, please no.
I mean,
Imagine if we exposed the deployer ref to the customers, like in the version string. That
oh
would
my
be
God,
helpful.
no.
Can we just start with this one branch, like, and see where it takes us, or even master, and then we'll just, or I don't know.
I mean, it's really difficult, Jar. It's really difficult to follow right now. Like, you
I know.
know how much time it
I
took
know.
me to find this deploy on deployer?
Well, so then we just say maybe just we could just call auto deploy, or we create a release branch, like.
So Warren, your problem was that you went to the deployer project, you were looking for the thing that deployed.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
you
all
can find
master.
it.
It's,
Everything is
you have
master.
to hover. You have to tooltip over the
Right.
stages to
But
kind of
don't
see.
we send a Slack message or anything about like?
That's the problem. The reason why I had to do this is the Slack message was failing, so we couldn't
Yeah.
find this.
Yeah.
That's the problem, right? So we need
Well,
more
yeah.
visibility.
We spent way too much time on this problem, and
Fair
we should
enough.
have.
But like, I feel like.
Like we spent an hour on this, by the
Yeah,
way.
that's bad, but I feel like the actual solution here is, hey, let's make the pipelines page better.
Yes,
Yeah.
and we have an
That's
issue
what
log
you
for
push
that.
Jason Lenny for.
Brandon in this case.
Okay, okay. Well, we could also push.
Yeah, and we did, and this got moved to backlog.
Yeah, I think there's.
Prioritize it.
Right, and we added production request label to it so that I can abuse my powers as the lead of Myra and Alessio. But then, bigger fish to fry. Sorry.
Sorry.
Can we solve this another way by like using the API and then chat ops command say, hey, find that last pipeline?
That's really abusing things. I would rather have just a tag then.
But I feel like this is the choice we make on this now is going to have presumably longer lasting implications that will live beyond us fixing the pipeline page.
Are you sure?
Hopefully. I'm hopeful.
You're hopeful, yeah.
What's wrong with this?
What are you actually suggesting there?
Just a branch name.
Just a branch name.
And then we have,
Oh, like a bridge prefix, like auto deploy / whatever.
no, just auto deploy. So when I trigger the pipeline and deployer, it's always a branch named auto deploy, and it's updated completely independent of the,
Master.
so
Updated
like,
with what?
so in other words, if there's a bug on deployer, we would just merge that change into
Into
the
the-
auto deploy branch.
Okay. That's fine with me as well.
Yeah.
How are you going to follow multiple deploys that are happening at the same time on the deployer branch though?
I think we had that problem before as well, because we were going to be using one, like you mean within a week, right?
Mhm.
We only had one branch, so I think we had that same problem. I don't know how, like you could even like,
We're going to have multiple deploys within a day even. And all of them are going to use the auto deploy branch.
so right now, like, Matt, I don't think there'll be many deploys happening simultaneously on the auto deploy branch, right? Because this is only for pre-prod or staging. And then what I'm thinking is that as we expand auto deploy to Canary in production, maybe the pipeline just gets longer. So then you won't really ever have more than one auto deploy pipeline happening at once. Right now, it would be like, this would be production, because it'd be triggered from chat ops. But maybe this should also be auto deploy, I don't know.
That's the
Like, I mean, we're overloading branches here to like deal with labeling. It's really
I know,
sucky.
it's really sucky.
Yeah. If we go with the branch, how and how often do we update that auto deploy branch?
It would be manual and but we don't frequently merge in changes to the deployer, right?
Sure.
So it'd be part of the process. I don't know how much this, I don't know about, like, if instead of everything being master, everything's release. I can see how that, but I also think that part of the confusion right now is that we have test pipelines that run in dry mode whenever we have a branch. And those, but those you see the branch name. When we merge into master, yeah, I mean, like, it's really just the production deploys and the staging deploys and the Canary deploys that all look the same because they're all master. And I don't know how to solve that.
How is this different to the tag proposal? Because if you have to have
Yeah.
a branch where you have to take a manual action every time you change something, how is that different from you going to the tag page, removing that tag, and triggering the thing again?
You're right. I mean, it's not that much different.
And if
There's
nothing else, tag actually has this one-on-one
Yeah,
relationship.
that's true. Okay. Yeah, I think it's a good idea. I'm just a little worried about the leaving and moving tags, but maybe let's just see if we have to do that often. I don't think we will. I think it's more likely that, we'll have a change that will require a new omnibus EE build anyway, so it's like,
Mhm.
I don't think it's a big.
Create an issue and explain the reasons why we went
Yeah.
with this versus this,
But
just so that we have it tracked when we need to.
But now, Robert, this means you have another thing to tag.
The deployer pipeline.
Yeah.
Oh, but it's in ops.
Yeah. but we can do that. We can do other things like,
But we don't do anything from release tools in ops, right?
Yeah.
We do? What do we do?
I don't remember, but we did.
We just added something recently.
Are you kidding me? So we now have 3 instances.
3 GitLab clients.
yeah.
Alright, we had enough time today, let's add 4th.
I think it's not that big of a deal, it's just,
You know what's the big
no, we do it
deal?
already because remember we create the auto deploy branch in ops.
Ah,
For the deployer.
Right.
So,
right.
yeah, so that's why
Oh, alright,
I added that.
alright. Yeah, the problem I have with this is it's becoming impossible humanly to follow the
Yeah.
lines. So
Yes.
we will.
That's what mermaid graphs are for.
Hey, they're in the handbook now.
Oh, they're in the handbook. Yes,
Yes,
so we
really
can now at
excited about
least
that,
draw
actually.
that.
Yeah, it's like, so we have like release tools to.
Just for my understanding, then, we tag. in release tools, the tag
We get tag.
we get tag in the release tools is EE, right? We get the versions, add them to Omnibus, and tag that.
We don't create an EE tag, do we?
Yeah.
No, we use SHA or what?
Hold on, we're tagging EE and Omnibus, and now we're tagging.
When are we tagging EE?
We are not tagging EE. We are finding the latest commit in the auto-deploy branch in EE and using that SHA. And then passing that.
I thought we
to
were,
the-
but that's fine, we don't have to, but why wouldn't we? Like, it's good
Because-
information, right?
It's because it's really hard to. No, I guess that's a good question.
You're right, but I guess it's like, it's the information, so if we just tag Omnibus, then the EE ref is just in the version file.
Mm-hmm.
We could also, I actually thought we were tagging EE as well, but maybe we don't need to. Just thought it would be,
And we are adding 1. Why wouldn't we add 2 more? What I was trying to repeat is we pass the versions to Omnibus, right? And then tag Omnibus.
We don't pass the versions anymore, we explicitly update them in
We do.
their
Yeah.
branch.
That's
The version
what
files.
I meant,
Yeah.
right? We update the version files through the API instead. Yeah. So it's not in the release tool per se. It's triggering the API,
Mhm.
and then we tag Omnibus, and that is going to trigger a deployer pipeline. But I guess
Mhm.
having another step in the release tool that will add a tag to deployer as well. But no, that's the problem. We trigger a pipeline from Omnibus. So we would have to change that behavior then. We trigger a pipeline in Omnibus.
we don't trigger a pipeline. It's, well, triggered in the sense that we tag Omnibus, which then results in a pipeline, right?
That's the problem.
Why? It triggers itself?
Yeah. Well, it's a tag, so
Yes.
there's it's like the condition, yeah.
I'm with you, Joe.
Okay.
I'm not. I don't
Yeah, I don't
understand what's
understand what
happening. So in Omnibus, when we create a package,
Mm-hmm.
right? You have the job inside of that pipeline,
Mhm.
inside of the tag pipeline,
Mm-hmm.
that says deploy to staging.
Mm-hmm.
What does that one do? How does that one interact with ops?
It triggers
It triggers a pipeline
Yes.
in ops.
in ops, yes.
But that's my point. If it triggers a pipeline in ops, you cannot tag that because it's a random event.
It would trigger a pipeline in ops with the, there's a field which says like what branch you want to use. Master, you can choose whatever branch you
Right,
want.
but then we are back to branch, not to
But-
tag.
But I
think
assume
it's
it's
any
a
ref.
ref. I
It's any
assume it's
ref.
a ref, right? Because a branch is a ref. So I assume that if I put a tag in there, it'll just work.
Okay,
But I've never done it.
I'm sold.
I'm
You're-
making the
you're-
same assumption.
I'm
Yeah.
sold. I'm sold. If that's the case, I'm
Yeah.
sold.
We talked briefly yesterday about instead of using major minor, we use the date.
No, let's leave it like this for now, please. I just want to have a working pipeline today, automated, Once we have that working, we can then make a change with the date, and we can
I
delete all
don't
this.
think it's a good idea, actually. I think the date, the major minor tracks to the month, so it is essentially a date, right?
But it's not very deterministic. Like it's
That was pointed
very
out.
vague.
That was point about having an 1110 auto deploy branch that doesn't go to production and is now essentially what will be 1111.
Yeah.
I think makes sense.
I think it does. I just don't think the timing is right for us to, in mid-flight, change this around as well.
I don't know how to, like, you're gonna have an orphan auto deploy at the end, near the end of the month, you're gonna have an orphan auto deploy, maybe multiple orphans even, like, who knows, depending on how frequently, that never go to production,
Right.
that have pick changes on them, but those changes are also picked in, are also on
Merged
master.
in master.
So eventually, like, it's gonna be fine, right? Like, eventually auto deploy will be successful and then we'll have all the changes.
Sort of, except we're upon the auto picking, we're posting messages like, hey, this is in this branch, it'll go into this version, and then people are like, okay.
That's why I think we need more feedback, like, we need like almost 3 feedbacks, right? Picked,
Deploy
to
deploy
staging.
start, deploy finish.
No, deploy finished.
Or maybe just deploy finish?
Deploy
Yeah.
finished and deployed to production.
Okay, we can punch the branch naming thing, but in that case, I do wanna like resolve this one piece
We
of
had,
technical debt where.
Mayor and I had a long discussion, multiple long discussions about this, and I was on the date side, and then I think I came around, and I was like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, I think it kind of makes sense to have because it might confuse people to have the date in addition
Yeah.
to major and minor.
I don't think it's a good time for this to be considered changing. That's the thing, right? So I'm open for revisiting it when we actually see the impact. So I don't disagree with that, but I want to see the impact first. And if it's just as simple as changing the major minor into date, simple, right? We only have 3 instances and 6 repositories. What can go wrong?
Can we fix